A gamer named Arisu plays an FPS game on a PS4 console. He plays it really well and is great at doing headshots. Then his older brother comes and calls him a parasite in their house. After hearing that, Arisu walks outside and wants to hang out with his two best friends. One of them, Karub, is seen having an affair with his cafe boss's girlfriend. Suddenly, the cafe boss shows up. He already knows about the affair and immediately punches Karub. Meanwhile, their other friend, Chota, works an ordinary office job. While waiting for messages from his friends, Arisu skillfully plays with a Rubik's Cube. Then Karub replies, saying he got fired from his job, and Chota says he skipped work today. They all agree to meet in front of Shibuya Station, which is famous for its busiest crosswalk. They finally meet and share how terrible their day is. They even joke about zombies in Shibuya. Arisu says if zombies come, only Karub will survive because he's good at fighting. But Karub believes Arisu will be the one to survive. After hearing that, Arisu falls silent, and the three of them look at the massive crowd crossing the street. Suddenly, Karub lifts Arisu and says today is his Independence Day. They start joking and playing around in the middle of the crosswalk, unaware that the traffic light has turned green. They quickly rush back to the sidewalk. At that moment, Chota sees fireworks explode in the sky. When they reach the sidewalk, the police suddenly chase them. They run and hide inside a public toilet. Suddenly, the lights go out. And shockingly, when the lights come back on, no one else is inside the toilet. They step outside and find that no one is out there. It feels like a zombie apocalypse. Arisu says, At the site of Karub's affair, there's no one. The same goes for Chota's office. Even their phones don't work. That night, they try to guess what is really happening. But they think this is no big deal. Now they are free. Suddenly, lights turn on in a nearby building, showing a message. Welcome, players. The game will begin shortly. They are guided into the game arena. After arriving at the building, they unknowingly walk through a laser gate. Inside, they find phones. Each person must take one. They turn on the phones, but there's no signal. Then a message pops up saying they must wait for the game to begin. A woman named Shibuki arrives and joins the game. She takes Chota's ID and shows that stepping outside the laser boundary causes a player to get shot in the head by a laser. So they have to play this game. Then, a high school girl also enters. The game starts. They go up in an elevator to a room with two doors. One with an anime face, meaning life, and one with a skull, meaning death. This is the life or death game, difficulty level 3 of spades. The rule is to pick the correct door within a limited time. They also must escape the building before time runs out. Curious, Chota records the room with his phone. As they argue about which door to choose, smoke starts to fill the room. Wanting to survive, they guess the life door is the right one, but they still hesitate. The high school girl can't stand the smoke and recklessly enters the life door, but she's immediately shot in the head by a laser, and finally she dies. They panic and run to the death door. The previous room burns. The group argues about the girl's death. Then Arisu picks the death door, but hesitates. Karub picks the life door and survives. They argue again, and Karub punches Arisu. But Arisu remembers something about a BMW parked outside the building. That helps him choose the next death door. And he is right. Because Arisu is smart, he explains how he figures out the building is shaped like a square. He draws a square on paper to help his friends understand. In short, they survive every room until they're stuck in one without a clear answer. Arisu remembers Chota's video about the girl getting shot and realizes there's no door in front of her. That leads him to guess there's a hidden hallway behind the life door. And he is right. But unfortunately, Chota's leg gets burnt. With time running out, they escape through the death door and finally get out of the building. The game is over. The game operator congratulates Arisu and his friends. They receive a 3 of spades card and a notification on their phones. They now have a 3-day visa, meaning their lives are extended by 3 days. Suddenly, a mysterious man appears. He says his visa expires today, and finally, he gets shot in the head by a laser. That's when they realize, when the visa expires, the person dies. They see more people getting shot by lasers all over Tokyo. A girl named Usagi watches them from a rooftop. She is skilled in climbing and promises herself to survive. The next day, Arisu tries to start a car, but fails. Along with his friends, he concludes that all electronics no longer work. Chota guesses the fireworks he saw might be an electromagnetic pulse, EMP, that destroys electronics in the city. Strangely, the game phones still work, but then also shut off. They discuss the mysterious game and wonder if it's time travel or maybe virtual reality. But if this is VR, it shouldn't cause real injuries, like Chota's leg burns. From all this, Arisu becomes sure of one thing. There's a game master behind everything. Since Chota needs treatment and Shibuki offers help, Arisu and Kurub decide to keep playing games together to gain experience and level up. They notice a few buildings with lights on, meaning those are game locations, and players can choose which location to enter. Usagi enters an apartment full of players. Arisu and Kurub also arrive and take new phones. The new game is tag, with a difficulty of 5 spades. They don't know what 5 spades means. A man with a hat explains. Spades means a physical game, club means team battle, diamond means intelligence game, heart means betrayal and emotional manipulation. The higher the number, the harder the game. They learn that the rule in tag is simple, run from the tagger. But they don't know who the tagger is. To clear the game, they must find a hidden safe zone inside the building. They are given a timer. If it runs out, a time bomb will explode. The game begins. As Arisu and Kurub search for the safe zone, they find someone already shot dead by the tagger. They see the tagger, a psychopath with a horse mask and a machine gun. They immediately run. The long hallways make it easy for the psychopath to shoot from a distance. Wanting to work together, Arisu shouts out the tagger's location to help the other players and invites them to search for the safe zone together. Hearing that, Usagi also yells out the psychopath position. Long story short, they meet a skilled male player and his friend. Their names are Aguni and Andy. Aguni invites Kurub to work together to fight the horse-masked psychopath, while Arisu searches for the safe zone with Usagi. Andy acts as bait, luring the psychopath toward him. He sees Aguni already behind the psychopath, but Aguni does not attack, so Andy gets shot. Kurub, who is there, says that Aguni lets Andy die. Both of them fight the horse-masked psychopath until Kurub's stomach gets slashed by a machete. Meanwhile, Arisu remembers that the psychopath once shot someone hiding from a distance, making him wonder why he always shoots from far away. So he walks toward a door, and a mysterious man named Chishiya also approaches him. The door can be opened, but soon after, another horse-masked psychopath appears and starts shooting at them. Luckily, they manage to dodge just in time. Chishiya uses a stun gun on the psychopath, causing him to fall, but the psychopath quickly recovers and shoots again. So they both run in different directions. Arisu eventually enters a room with 2 buttons that must be pressed simultaneously. He shouts to the others that he has found the safe zone. However, the psychopath enters the room first, so Arisu is forced to fight him. After learning the location of the safe zone, Usagi climbs toward that room. When she arrives, Chishiya gives her the stun gun, which she immediately uses on the psychopath. The shot knocks off the psychopath's mask. Shortly after, Arisu and Usagi jump onto the buttons at the same time and successfully stop the bomb. The game ends. It turns out the horse-masked psychopath is a middle-aged woman wearing a metal collar that starts beeping rapidly, then explodes, and finally, she dies. The same thing also happens to the other psychopath who fights Kurub and Aguni. They start wondering if the enemies they fight are also players. Then Kurub hears a sound from Andy's pocket. It is a radio. A voice from the radio says, "The answer is now in your hands. Return to the beach." This incident makes Arisu feel guilty for killing someone. But Usagi reassures him that it is not his fault, and she is willing to do whatever it takes to survive in this game. Meanwhile, Chishiya, still inside the button room, checks the psychopath's pocket and finds a piece of paper with an abstract drawing. The next day, Arisu and Kurub return to their base camp. Kurub tells Arisu about a place called the beach, which he hears about on the radio. He believes they can find something there. But Chota's and Shibuki's visas will expire today, so they must play one more game before going to the beach. Before the game, Kurub goes to his workplace to retrieve a ring, seemingly to propose to the woman he once cheated on. Then they go to the game location, a large park. There, they find lots of gear that each person must take one of, along with a pair of cool sunglasses. Arisu wears them, along with a collar that is placed on his neck, a bomb collar, like the ones worn by the horse-masked psychopaths. With a retina scanner, they can scan each other's faces to reveal the player's ID. The game is hide and seek, with a difficulty level of 7 hearts. Knowing this is a heart game reminds them of what the man in the hat said. Heart games are betrayal games that manipulate human emotions. The rule: one person becomes the wolf, and the other 3 become sheep. Whoever is found by the wolf becomes the next wolf. The operator advises them to hide. The win condition: whoever is the wolf at the end of the game wins. When time runs out, the collars of all the sheep will explode. The first wolf is Chota, then it switches to Arisu, then to Karub. Then Shibuki grabs a hammer and shouts to draw attention, making herself the new wolf, and she runs away. Karub believes the wolf should be hiding, so he chases after Shibuki. He catches her and forces her to look into his eyes. But accidentally, Shibuki sees Karub first, turning Karub back into the wolf. Karub becomes Shibuki's target, but he manages to fight back. Not long after, Arisu calls out and becomes the wolf, asking them to work together. Long story short, Arisu is ambushed by Karub and Shibuki. Shibuki wants a strike, but Chota jumps in and holds her back. He tells Arisu to run, so Arisu escapes while Karub chases him. While running, Arisu stops and tries to forcibly remove the sunglasses device. Meanwhile, Karub collapses due to his stomach pain. The three of them recall their happy moments together, showing how strong their friendship is. Finally, Arisu says he wants to quit this game. He decides to look for his two best friends. But Karub and Chota hide from him and tell him to live on for their sake. Karub reveals himself to Arisu. The countdown begins in 3, 2, 1, and his collar explodes, followed by Chota and Shibuki, and finally they all die. Seeing his friends die, Arisu screams in grief. The next day, Usagi finds a rabbit trapped in one of her snares. To survive, she kills it and prepares it for food. On her way home, she sees Arisu lying weakly on the street. She offers help, but Arisu desperately says that he's going to die. Hearing that, Usagi leaves him alone. The next day, Usagi walks the same path and finds Arisu still lying there. Feeling sorry, she takes him to her shelter and gives him food. Arisu asks why Usagi saves him. Before she can answer, Arisu's stomach growls. Clearly, he is hungry. Then Usagi says, "Your body says it wants to live." But after that, Arisu still feels deeply guilty for his friends' deaths and says he has no will to live. Usagi says she once felt the same, but she has decided to survive no matter what. The next day, Arisu is still asleep. At that moment, Usagi says she wants to repay Andy for helping her during the tag game. Hearing that, Arisu becomes energized again and regains his motivation to keep playing the game. Since Arisu's visa will soon expire, they play a game to extend his life. They go to a tunnel that becomes the game arena. There, they find an empty bus with the lights on. Inside, they meet 3 men, one of whom is injured in the leg. Let's call them Andy 1, Andy 2, and Andy 3. They say they've already played 4 games and have worked together since the early stages. This time, the game is called Distance, with a difficulty of 4 clubs. The rule is to survive through obstacles and reach the goal within a time limit. The win condition: reach the destination safely. They learn that the game requires them to run with a time limit of 2 hours. Before that, Andy 2 tries to start the bus engine, thinking it's an old model, but it turns out the tank is empty. So, they all have to run. However, Andy 3 asks them to leave him behind, claiming he will find a way to survive. They start running, not knowing how far they must go. At the 5-kilometer mark, they find lots of water bottles available to take. But at first, they don't trust them, thinking the drinks might be poisoned. So, Usagi gives her bottle to Arisu. Then Arisu offers the water to Andy 1 and Andy 2 as a sign of teamwork. In the dark part of the tunnel, Usagi senses something in the distance, a wild black panther. They try to avoid its attack. Unfortunately, Andy 1 gets attacked and dragged away by the panther, while the others manage to escape. At the 8th kilometer, they find an old motorcycle on the back of a pickup truck. Arisu remembers what Chota once said: objects without IC chips can still function. So he thinks the motorcycle might still work because it uses a diesel engine. They inspect it carefully and find out that the motorcycle has no battery. But luckily, there is still diesel in the tank. Arisu believes the fuel can be used to start the bus at the beginning of the tunnel and also save Andy 3. So he rides a motorcycle back toward the bus, while the others keep moving forward. Eventually, Arisu reaches the bus, where Andy 3 is still waiting. Usagi and Andy 2 arrive at the destination, which turns out to be a dead end. So they decide to wait for the bus. Suddenly, they hear a strange sound from behind, a flood of water rushing into the tunnel. They run as fast as they can. The water floods and like a tsunami chasing them. Unfortunately, Andy 2 falls while running and gets swept away by the current. Usagi keeps running until she finds a bus, now driven by Andy 3 and assisted by Arisu, who pulls Usagi up just in time. Fortunately, she makes it in, and the bus gets hit by the tsunami. After losing consciousness for a moment, they survive. When they get out of the bus, they realize that the real destination was the bus itself. Arisu says that it has been written on the bus from the beginning. As for the numbers displayed, they represent the distance to the goal, which should always be 0. The game ends. Then Andy 3 says he wants to meet them again if they survive. The next day, Arisu tells Usagi about a place called the beach, which Karub once mentioned. He thinks they might find missing people there, or maybe the safe place. So they go look for it by riding bicycles. After asking around for information, they still don't find any clues. They decide to camp for the night. Usagi sleeps in a tent, while Arisu sleeps outside and gets bitten by mosquitoes. Hearing that, Usagi tells him to sleep inside, saying that proper rest is important. And from that night on, Arisu doesn't get bitten again. The next night, they observe some players from a distance as they play a game. Arisu sees something on a player's wrists, the same thing he saw on Aguni and his companion during the tag game. So they watch until the game ends. After that, Arisu sees the players leave by car. Knowing this, they chase after the car and arrive at a place called the beach, which has electricity. Suddenly, 2 people silently capture them from behind. They wake up in a place surrounded by many people. Arisu explains that he and Usagi come here to learn more about the game. Then the leader of the beach, Hatter, appears. He shows them the collection of cards that he and his group have gathered. Almost a complete set. Hatter explains that to truly escape the game, they must complete all the games and collect all the cards. But only one person can return to the real world. He invites them to join his group to help collect the remaining cards. He also explains the meaning of visas, that it's as if they have entered another country. Hatter's subordinates, Mira and Ryu, say they have formed an organization at the beach. The beach is powered by fuel-based electricity, rainwater supply, and firearms. But there are several rules. 1. Everyone must wear swimsuits to make it easier to detect hidden weapons. 2. All cards belong to the beach, so Arisu's and Usagi's cards are confiscated. 3. Betrayal equals the death penalty. Hatter takes the 7 of Hearts card, which he has never had before. He thanks them and says he will consider promoting them within the organization. But first, he allows them to enjoy the atmosphere of the beach. Many people appear to be having fun. Time passes, and everyone gets ready to play again, including Arisu and Usagi. Chishiya and his partner, Kuina, are also there, observing them. Everyone plays, including Aguni, who joins a game in an amusement park-themed area with his subordinates, Naragi and Reizabosu. Meanwhile, Arisu plays alongside and Kuina. He also meets a man who once worked with him during the tag game, Tada. They arrive in an electrical room with water spraying everywhere. The game is called Light Bulb, with a difficulty level of 4 diamonds. The operator asks, which switch turns on the light? The rules are, you may open the door and turn on the switch only once. While the door is closed, you can turn the switches on and off as much as you want. If someone is inside the room or if a switch is on, the door will permanently lock. They only have one chance to answer as a group. Which switch turns on the light? If the water rises and touches the cables, they will die, like the girl who instantly dies when she touches the cable. After understanding everything and receiving input from his friends, Arisu tells them to close the door. Then he activates switch A and waits for a while. After that, he turns it off and tells him to open the door. Then he turns on switch B, but the light doesn't turn on. Knowing that, he tells Kona to touch the bulb. And it turns out the bulb feels warm. Arisu and then answer that switch A is the one that turns on the light. Thanks to their answer, the water stops and the game ends. Arisu explains his reasoning. Electricity produces heat. A light bulb that has been on will feel warm, but if it hasn't been on, it will feel cold. After the game ends, Arisu and Usagi meet again at the beach, then meet Kuina, who is also there. Then Aguni arrives with her group, who Kuina says are the militant leaders of the beach. Aguni orders his subordinates to take Usagi, but the command is quickly stopped by Hatter's group, who also arrive. After reminding Aguni that he is still number 1 at the beach, Hatter invites Arisu to a meeting with his group in a conference room. Hatter says that he needs to renew his visa, while Aguni's group is ordered to protect the beach. After that, Hatter invites Arisu for a drink and a chat. Hatter explains how he came to rule the beach, along with his ambition to be the only person to escape this game world. Hearing that, Arisu considers Hatter a dictator, so he only nods, as he himself also has the ambition to escape this game world. The next morning, Usagi wakes Arisu up. Arisu says he wants to gather information as an alternative way to escape the game world. But after asking around, he still finds no answers. Somewhere, Arisu sees the militant group throwing something into a metal trash bin, and one of them fires a gun. Curious, Arisu checks it. It turns out to be the bodies of players. Suddenly, Chishiya appears and says that those bodies are traitors who have been executed on the rooftop. Chishiya says that he and Kuina are interested in Arisu because he is smart at the games. He reveals that one day, the militant group will rebel against Hatter's faction. So, staying at the beach is pointless. He also plans to steal all the cards and leave the beach. Knowing that, Arisu agrees. So he offers his support. That night, Hatter's group plays a game while being secretly watched by someone mysterious. The next day, shockingly, they discover that Hatter has died. Tada says that Hatter failed in a shooting game and examines him and finds a gunshot wound. Ryu steps forward and wants to become the next leader because he is number 2 at the beach. But Naragi immediately stops him, saying that the strongest one should be the boss, Aguni. But no one raises their hand. So, with threats of violence, they force Hatter's followers to raise their hands. Since Hatter has died, Aguni opens the black envelope in front of everyone to reveal the code to the vault that stores all the cards in Hatter's room. After seeing it, he uses the ring engraved with Boss to reseal the envelope. Then, Chishiya and his allies plan to steal the cards directly, with Arisu sneaking into Hatter's room to find the vault. Chishiya claims that he already knows the code and will tell Arisu once the vault is found. While Aguni and the others deliver an announcement to the people of the beach, Arisu begins to sneak in and finds the vault. Chishiya quickly tells him that the code is 8022 based on the boss ring that looks like those numbers. Arisu enters the code, but turns out to be wrong, and the vault makes a loud beep beep sound. He gets caught by Aguni's group, and that's when he realizes that Chishiya has set him up. Meanwhile, Usagi is also captured. After that, Arisu is locked in a room by Naragi and his gang. Meanwhile, it investigates Hatter's gunshot wound further and finds the bullet. It seems she starts to figure out where the bullet came from. Then, Kuina spies on Aguni from outside his room and reports the situation to Chishiya. Chishiya says that the cards wouldn't be kept in a normal vault, so he realizes that the real vault is behind the deer painting. When he sees Aguni staring at that painting, he becomes sure that the envelope didn't contain a code, but a drawing of a deer. He takes the painting down, and behind it, there truly is a hidden vault. He enters the code 8022, and it works. Chishiya finally gets the cards. Then he and Kuina plan to leave the beach, but they realize that lasers block the exit. Elsewhere, Usagi is nearly tortured by Naragi. But shortly after, a game notification appears. Difficulty level 10 hearts. Terrifying. The operator commands everyone to gather in the main lobby, where many phones have been prepared. Usagi escapes and grabs one of the phones in the main lobby. She then sees a crowd surrounding something. Momoka, a girl who has been stabbed in the chest and is now dead. Her best friend, Asahi, is in shock. Soon after that, everyone receives a notification. The game is called Witch Hunt. The operator announces that the evil which was taking Momoka's life is hiding among them. Win condition: find the witch and burn her in the judgment flames outside the building. As a result, people start accusing one another, and is also accused of the blood on her hands. But she explains that it is Hatter's blood and tells everyone that Hatter was murdered. She supports her claim with a bullet wound that matches the gun found at the beach. But one girl refuses to believe her and is suddenly stabbed from behind by Reizabosu. Then Aguni's group arrives and demands that the witch confess. If not, they will throw everyone into the fire. Naragi fires his assault rifle, causing panic and chaos. Amidst the chaos, Usagi and her friends try to find the room where Arisu is locked up. Meanwhile, Aguni's people keep killing, especially Naragi with his sniper rifle, and Reizabosu, who starts burning the beach building. At the same time, and investigates a knife in Momoka's body using the super glue she found. Kuina, who is with her, asks what job was in the real world, and says that she is a forensic officer in the police. Soon after, Reizabosu appears and blocks their way. Seeing this, Kuina tells him to run while she stays to fight him. They fight in a disco-like area, and it turns out Kuina has fighting skills from her past. Even after being thrown into broken glass that injures her leg, Kuina stays confident, and finally, she defeats Reizabosu. At Naragi's location, Chishiya arrives. Naragi already knows that Chishiya has never truly been on his side, and that is confirmed when Shishiya says he will kill all of Naragi's men. Shishiya starts his attack by distracting Naragi with thrown cards, then fires his flamethrower at Naragi, setting him on fire and causing him to fall from the roof. Back to Risu. He is seen lying on the floor. He tries to escape by rubbing the duct tape on his mouth against the floor and succeeds in removing it. Instantly, he screams for help. Usagi and the others in the hallway luckily hear her scream, but they are blocked by 2 militants. After subduing them, Usagi finally finds Arisu, who is still tied up. They go to her room, and Arisu starts hearing the explanation about the game. After thinking like Detective Conan, with the help of his friends, Arisu claims that he knows who the witch is. Aguni's group prepares to shoot into the lobby crowd, but some of his followers can't take it anymore. Suddenly, Arisu and his friends show up and tell them to stop and work together. But Aguni refuses and punches Arisu. Seeing this, Usagi accuses Aguni of being the witch because Arisu has an alibi. People start to agree, some are even ready to shoot him. But Arisu says that Aguni is not the witch, explaining that the person Aguni killed wasn't Momoka, it was Hatter. Arisu says that he and Hatter were friends in the real world, but he couldn't forgive what Hatter had done and wanted to end his madness. A flashback shows Hatter playing the game while Aguni watches from behind. He actually finishes the game and later meets Aguni in a place from their past. There, Aguni says that he wants to dismantle the beach because it's getting harder to control Naragi and the growing madness of the militants. He also admits that the idea of returning to the real world after collecting all the cards is nonsense. But Hatter refuses and points a gun at him. He shoots, and Aguni fires back. He then checks Hatter's gun and finds it is unloaded. Arisu then says that Aguni wants to kill everyone at the beach because they are the ones who drove Hatter insane. In that grief, the game master takes the opportunity to create the 10 Hearts game. After that, Arisu finally names the witch. It is Momoka herself who stabbed herself. Hearing this, Aguni loses his mind and tells everyone to kill him. Asahi says that she knows how to stop Aguni and tells everyone to burn Momoka's body in the flames. She then admits that she is one of the dealers behind the game, but this causes a laser to suddenly shoot her head, and she dies instantly. Not long after, and comes to confirm the evidence, showing the knife stuck in Momoka's chest, proving that she has indeed stabbed herself. Knowing this, Usagi suspects that both of them have also been controlled by the game's masterminds. Suddenly, fire starts to spread throughout the building and gunshots are heard. It is Naragi who is still alive. As he tries to shoot Arisu, Aguni jumps in and pushes Naragi away, saving him. After that, Arisu sees Asahi's phone, which is still recording. With little time left, everyone lifts Momoka's body and throws it into the fire. The operator congratulates them, and finally, the game is over. Everyone manages to escape from the beach, except Shishiya and Kuya, who succeed in collecting the 10 of Hearts card. Shishiya wonders what the game master will show them next. The next day, Arisu shows Usagi the video on Asahi's phone. They watch a vlog recorded by Asahi and Momoka, filmed during their early days in the game world. Asahi explains that they once met a mysterious person who brought them to a secret operation base, a place where the entire game system is controlled. In the video, Asahi and Momoka enter a dark subway station. Inside, they open a hidden door that leads to a secret room. They find a large control room filled with monitors, computers, and cables, clearly the command center of this game. Many people dressed like technical staff are monitoring players through the screens. They look like ordinary office workers, but they are clearly part of this brutal game system. Asahi says that at first, they only want to survive, but over time, they begin to feel guilty for helping a game that kills so many people. They feel like traitors. That's why they record this video, to open the player's eyes if the two of them don't make it out alive. After watching the video until the end, Arisu and Usagi agree to investigate the place directly. They follow the route shown in the video and eventually arrive at the same station. With the map that Shishiya previously gave them, the one he got from the horseman during the tag game, they find the same hidden door. But when they enter the control room, they are shocked. Everyone inside is already dead. They all die in the same way. Burned heads, just like players who fail in the game. No one survives. Arisu realizes that even the operators are just ordinary people, and they have been killed by someone higher. Not long after, Shishiya and Koina appear. They also arrive at the same place. Shishiya explains that he has suspected this place for a long time. He believes that their victory at the beach has triggered the elimination of the entire operator team. Everything has been designed to leave no trace, and no witnesses. Suddenly, the lights in the room turn on automatically. On a giant screen appears the face of a woman, Mira, one of the beach's executives, who always appears calm and polite. This time, her face looks cold and terrifying. With a mysterious smile, Mira says, "Congratulations! You have completed all the number card games. You are the winners. But this is not the end." Arisu, Usagi, Chishiya, and Kuina step out of the tunnel and stand at the center of an empty Shibuya intersection. Fireworks explode in the sky, and dozens of massive airships descend, each carrying a giant face card. Jack, Queen, King. Even Arisu and his friends still trapped in the death game world. They are ready to face the next level. At the iconic Shibuya crossing, the place where Arisu first plays the deadly game, he, Usagi, Kuina, and Chishiya gather, waiting for the new round to begin. They wait for more than an hour, but no instruction or game notification appears on the giant screens. In the middle of the tense pause, Usagi starts to hear strange sounds from afar. Her attention turns to the sound until a group of people arrives with several vehicles, announcing that the game has officially begun. Kuina immediately recognizes them as the survivors from the beach who also come to participate. Suddenly, the sound of automatic rifle fire is heard from an unknown direction, triggering panic. Chaos happens as the players run, trying to find cover. The source and direction of the attack are unclear, making all participants open targets. Arisu, Usagi, Kuina, and Chishiya also run through the chaos to avoid the gunfire. In the middle of the panic, Arisu suggests that they split up to increase their chances of survival and find hiding places individually. As bullets keep raining down the street, they hide behind parked vehicles. That is when a large car of the King of Spades is seen hanging behind a low-flying plane. Once Arisu sees it, he realizes that the shooter is not some random person, but the King of Spades himself, someone who single-handedly orchestrates this brutal attack. After being separated, Arisu and Usagi manage to find a hiding spot. At that moment, Arisu sees a masked figure in a black coat approaching, and everyone thinks it is the King of Spades. The masked man shoots anyone he meets on the street without mercy. Arisu sees a young boy wounded near the sidewalk and quickly runs with Usagi to help him. Sadly, when they manage to drag the boy behind a car for cover, the boy has already died. Kuina and Chishiya, who hide nearby, also witness the heartbreaking moment. With no clear escape route and the shooter getting closer, the group prepares for the worst. At that moment, a car suddenly stops in front of them, with and as the driver. Tada peeks from the window and tells them to get in quickly. Everyone manages to enter, except Chishiya. As Chishiya is about to reach the car, he sees a grenade lying near the vehicle, thrown by the masked man. He immediately warns the others and forces them to leave without him. Following his demand, Tada drives away, taking the group to safety. Although Kuina looks very anxious to leave Chishiya, Arisu assures her that Chishiya is tough and can survive on his own. When the danger temporarily eases, the group starts to speculate about Mira, her role in the game, and the mystery surrounding her. They begin to believe that the entire city is now a battlefield, with the plane's flight paths showing that this time, the whole metropolis is part of the game arena. Meanwhile, Mira seems to enjoy the widespread suffering. Elsewhere, the masked man continues his rampage, killing 4 other players inside a car and stealing their vehicle to chase Arisu's group. Not long after, he manages to catch up with them and opens fire again. Since Tada drives too slowly and takes the wheel and accelerates, in her effort to escape, she ends up crashing the car in the middle of the road. Miraculously, everyone survives the crash. The masked attacker arrives moments later and resumes the assault, forcing the group into a nearby building, in the chaos, and becomes separated from the others. That night, Arisu and Usagi go to look for food, while Tada and Kuina search for another vehicle. Eventually, Tada and Kuina find a luxury car showroom. Tada chooses one car and jokes that he doesn't need to pay for it. Yet in the middle of that fleeting sense of freedom, he confesses to Kuina that he misses living a normal life with his family, a feeling Kuina also shares. Meanwhile, Arisu and Usagi visit a supermarket, gathering as much food as possible. As Arisu selects supplies, he is overwhelmed by emotions, remembering his fallen friends. On the other hand, Usagi shares her dream. She once wished to be a shop clerk. She carefully packs the food, treating the moment with sincerity. As they are about to leave, Usagi notices a magazine with her late father's photo on the cover. She tells Arisu that she does not want to return to the real world, preferring to stay in this game world instead. Touched, Arisu promises that he will protect her and stay by her side, no matter what happens. As they walk back with supplies, Tada and Kuina pick them up with their new vehicle. The next morning, the group comes to a grim conclusion. This game has no clear endpoint. If they keep hiding, the masked man will surely find them. Arisu proposes a new strategy. Rather than just avoiding, they must seek out and challenge the game masters to disrupt the system and maybe uncover clues about how this world works. He explains that games marked with club symbols require teamwork, which can be useful for gathering information. At last, they decide to pursue the king of clubs, who is rumored to be near the harbor. Without wasting time, they follow the signal and arrive at a container area, where they find 5 bracelets on a table. However, according to the rules, 5 players must be present before the game can begin. Surprisingly, Naragi suddenly appears, already wearing 1 bracelet. His survival is shocking, as the group thought he had already died from severe burns. One by one, the members put on their bracelets. Once the last bracelet is worn, a huge gate opens, granting them access to the game arena. As they step inside, more people show up. The king of clubs reveals himself as Kyuma, and shockingly, he appears completely naked. He introduces his teammates and starts talking about his view on nudity. According to Kyuma, nudism is not just a lifestyle, but a social philosophy that has existed for centuries. He believes that clothing is a human-made construct and not a true necessity for life. Arisu and the others are shocked to learn that Kyuma's team consists of long-term residents of this world. A flashback shows Kyuma and his teammates back when they were a band, with Kyuma as the lead vocalist. Back in the present, Kyuma declares himself the game master, and Shurtero, one of his teammates, explains that this is a new experience for them. Despite living in this world for so long, they have never played as one team before. Kyuma tells Arisu that they, too, are fighting for survival. If their team loses, all of them will die. He then announces the name of the game, Osmosis. He continues by explaining the rules. The game will last for 2 hours, and both teams must collect points. The team with the highest score at the end wins. Each team starts with 10,000 points, and before the game begins, those points must be divided among the team members as they wish. Kyuma then details 3 methods to gain points: fighting against the opposing team, finding hidden tools or items, and touching the enemy base. He explains that each player's individual score will be displayed directly on their bracelet. The players can cooperate and combine points to face opponents with higher scores. However, unless a player already has points, they will not be able to access the opponent's total score. Regarding the base mechanism, Kyuma explains that touching the enemy's base pole will give his team an additional 10,000 points, a move that can drastically change the flow of the game. But there is a deadly trap. When a player tries to touch the enemy base, they will become the target of the pole's guarding laser and immediately lose 10,000 points. With the rules now fully explained, Arisu and his companions must carefully understand every detail before the match begins. Once the countdown ends, both teams spread out in different directions. Arisu, who takes the role of strategist, designs the distribution of points methodically. He theorizes that faster runners should receive fewer points, while slower ones should receive more, based on his analysis of movement patterns. He entrusts the base defense to Tada and gives him the lowest allocation, then splits the other 4 into 2 pairs. Usagi and Aragi are tasked to chase enemy players and earn points, while Arisu and Kuina start searching the area for hidden items. Soon after, Usagi and Naragi manage to tag an enemy player and earn points for their team. At the same time, Kuina finds a hidden object that grants her 2,000 points. Unfortunately, as she and Arisu step out of a container after securing the points, Kyuma waits outside. He tries to lure them into a fight, but Arisu voluntarily steps forward to face him alone. Unexpectedly, when Kyuma touches Arisu instead gains 2,000 points, making Kyuma lose the exchange. Not long after, Kuina and Arisu face Shurtera and defeat him in battle, earning another 2,000 points. Kyuma's strategic mistake lies in distributing his points equally among all his teammates. After Kyuma and Shurtera learn that Arisu's team leads by 6,000 points, they start to target Tada, who guards the base. They realize that attacking him may be their only hope to turn the tide, even if it means sacrificing themselves. Kyuma's team, except Yuta, moves toward Tada, while Arisu's team is busy searching for more items. Sensing the threat, Tada touches his own base, making his point value infinite. During the clash, Gouken, Maki, and Kuma succeed in touching the enemy base pole. However, Shurtera is stopped by Tada's touch, which makes him lose all his points, and finally he dies. This maneuver gives Kuma's team a 4,000-point lead. Now trailing, Arisu's team must spread out again to close the gap. They focus all their efforts on collecting items and earning points. However, they can. But as they scatter, Kuma's team begins hunting them to gather extra points. Gouken and Yuta manage to tag Kuina and Usagi, reducing their total points. Meanwhile, Arisu finds another item, but before he can grab it, Yuta reaches it first and earns 3,000 points for her team. With that, Kuma's side now leads by 12,000 points. At that moment, Kuma appears and tells Arisu that this game is indeed cruel, but ultimately it is more about teamwork than individual skill. With only 30 minutes left on the game clock and a massive score gap, Arisu begins to form a new strategy. He concludes that the only logical choice is to risk a direct assault on Kuma's base. If two of his teammates succeed in touching it, they will gain 20,000 points and seize the lead. The others agree, realizing they have no better alternative. They scatter again to confuse and distract the enemies. Usagi lures Gouken away, but Maki, Kuma, and Yuta stay tightly guarding their base. Each of them touches the base pole, giving themselves infinite point values. This development puts Arisu's team in extreme danger. If touched by any opponent with infinite points, they will be instantly eliminated, and their team will lose 10,000 points for each defeat. With coordinated signals, Arisu, Kuina, and Naragi storm the enemy base. Kuina distracts Maki, and Arisu shocks Kuma with an electric jolt, temporarily disabling his bracelet. Naragi seizes the chance and successfully touches the base while avoiding Yuta. He then fights Maki, buying time for Kana to move toward the pole. Unfortunately, Yuta and Maki work together to push her away, earning 500 points for their team and preventing Kuina from scoring. With only 20 minutes left, Kuma's team maintains a 3,000-point lead. In the next scene, Arisu's teammates scatter, overwhelmed with despair by their situation. But while the others are paralyzed by regret, Usagi refuses to give up. She continues searching for one last item and finally succeeds, adding 2,500 points to her team's score. Naragi, however, is left in critical condition from severe blood loss during the game. In a sudden act of betrayal, he attacks Usagi. As Usagi struggles to resist, he slams her head to the ground, knocking her unconscious. With only 500 points separating the teams, Arisu makes a desperate choice. He will try once more to reach Kuma's base. Then the scene shifts to Tada's past, when he worked as a mechanic in a car workshop. Although he has a hopeful attitude and dreams of a better future, he is often mocked by those around him. Tada wishes to leave his job and pursue education, but financial limits keep him tied to the garage. One day, he is careless and fails to position a jack correctly, causing a car to fall and injure the arm of his boss, Kato. The injury forces Kato into early retirement, leaving a lasting scar on Tada. Back in the present timeline, Tada resolves to help Arisu and the entire team, driven by guilt for his past mistake and his desire to protect others. Meanwhile, Naragi continues his assault on the unconscious Usagi, attempting to assault her sexually. Fortunately, Arisu arrives in time, stops Naragi, and saves Usagi. Naragi mocks Arisu during the confrontation, but Arisu beats him down as the game clock counts the final 7 minutes. Arisu carries Usagi and brings her back to their base. Usagi apologizes for not being able to help much during the game. With only 7 minutes remaining, Arisu realizes he must take drastic action to win. On the other hand, Kuma, confident in victory, walks calmly and ends up by the seaside, where he meets Arisu. They engage in a meaningful conversation, and Arisu thanks Kuma for the wisdom he has given earlier. He then requests one last handshake. At first, Kuma refuses, warning that the action will make Arisu lose crucial points. But moments later, he changes his mind and agrees. As soon as their hands clasp, the scoreboard immediately updates. Kuma's points transfer to Arisu, giving his team a 500-point lead. The voice of the game announcer echoes across the area, declaring that Arisu's team now leads. Shocked, everyone reacts to this unexpected turn. Kuma, surprised yet impressed, asks Arisu how he manages to pull off such a maneuver. The story then shifts back a few minutes earlier, showing Tada deliberately slamming his hand against the metal door of the container. Seeing Tada hurt himself, Arisu immediately runs to stop him, trying to prevent him from doing anything further. However, Tada calmly explains that he has devised a plan to gain points. His intention is to remove the bracelet from his arm. At first, Arisu refuses to follow through with the plan, afraid of the consequences, but Tada convinces him that the game's rules never mention any punishment for removing the bracelet. He emphasizes that this may be their only chance to win. Reluctantly, Arisu helps Tada remove the device. Once removed, Tada hands his bracelet to Arisu, instantly giving him an additional 10,000 points. Because Tada never moves from the team's base, the opposing team fails to steal points from him, and the bracelet remains active for scoring. Tada then expresses heartfelt gratitude to Arisu, admitting that only he truly sees the sincerity behind his optimism and kindness, unlike others who often doubt his intentions. On the opposing side, Kuma's team accepts their defeat with surprising calm. They hold no grudge against Kuma and praise him for his leadership, even though they lose. Arisu's final question to Kuma is whether winning this game means he will have the chance to return to the real world. Kuma does not give a clear answer, but urges Arisu to follow his instincts. He stresses that only Arisu himself holds the key to his destiny and advises him to live a life true to himself, not one controlled by others. Kuma then accepts his defeat with dignity, climbing onto an object as the game reaches its end. At that moment, a bright laser beam descends from the sky, striking each member of Kuma's team, and finally they die. Back at the base, Kuna tells Usagi that their team has won, and slowly, Usagi regains consciousness. Meanwhile, Arisu runs back to Tada's side and tearfully thanks him for his brave sacrifice. Sadly, because of severe blood loss, Tada dies. Arisu buries his friend on the beach, saying goodbye for the last time. From that moment on, Arisu, Usagi, and Kuna vow to keep moving forward in the games, not only for themselves but also to honor Tada's courage and sacrifice. Even Naragi, who often acts cold and selfish, acknowledges Tada's bravery with genuine respect. The story then shifts to a new location, a prison, where a group of participants gathers, awaiting the next game. Surprisingly, Shishiya is among them. The players, wearing collars around their necks, stand in the main security hall while waiting for instructions. A large monitor suddenly lights up, displaying the game's title, Solitary Cell. A woman's voice announces that the players must correctly guess the card symbol on the back of their collars. However, they are not allowed to see it themselves. They must rely on other players. There is a deadly twist. If their guess is wrong, the collar will explode and kill the player instantly. The only way to escape this prison is to identify the Jack of Hearts, hidden among the participants. The prison is equipped with full supplies to sustain life, making escape seem impossible unless Jack is found. After the rules are explained, the players quickly form alliances to exchange information. Shishiya also finds a partner he believes he can trust. However, as the rounds progress, betrayal begins to seep into the group. Players start lying about each other's symbols, leading to a series of gruesome deaths as collars explode one by one. With each new round, the card symbols change, and by the end of round 9, only 6 players remain alive. Unfortunately for Shishiya, his partner panics and refuses to respond when asked about his symbol. His silence triggers the collar's explosion, and finally he dies. Now alone and without allies, Shishiya must rely entirely on his instincts to survive. We then see him sit on a bench, deep in thought, try to figure out how he can identify his symbol without help. Realizing the importance of cooperation, Shishiya tries to talk to another contestant named Enji. However, Enji is connected with Sanato, a notorious serial killer who might be the Jack of Hearts. Shishiya warns Enji about Sanato's brutal nature and his tendency to betray, hoping to gain Enji's trust. To prove his sincerity, Shishiya shows his own symbol. Sadly, Enji responds with lies and walks away. Moments later, a girl named Kotoko appears, taking food from the storage room. Shishiya asks her to help him by reading the symbol on his collar, but she completely ignores him and leaves without a word. As the game moves into the next round, Shishiya finds himself standing alone, while the remaining players have paired up. Meanwhile, Enji manipulates others into lying about their partner's symbols, continuing the cycle of betrayal. When the time comes to announce their symbols inside the isolation cells, Shishiya takes a big risk and guesses diamond. To Enji's surprise, he walks out of the cell alive, thinking he is the only survivor. But then Shishiya, Sanato, and Oki also come out alive, even though Enji has tried to sabotage them. Shishiya confronts Enji, accusing him of being the Jack of Hearts. Enji denies it, but Shishiya explains that he observed Enji and Kitoko secretly exchanging symbols in the cafeteria by using the taste of biscuits as a secret code. Despite his denials, Enji is overpowered by the 3 other players. They drag him into a cell to torture him for answers. Finally, he dies. While Sanato and Oki handle the interrogation, Shishiya quietly slips out of the prison. In the sky, an airplane carrying the Jack of Hearts card explodes in flames, signaling the end of the game. The narrative then shifts to a documentary made by a survivor named Kaido Kamayama. Through a compilation of interviews, Kaido vividly describes this strange new society, a place seemingly designed for criminals, drug users, and thieves. Many interviewees reveal their satisfaction with life in this lawless realm, claiming that they enjoy the freedom and lack of social rules. Kaido suggests that the game's organizers have fundamentally reshaped their lives, making their existence lose meaning in the traditional sense. If the survivors hope to return to the real world, they must continue to play and uncover the truth behind the games. As the sun rises the next morning, Kuna, worried about the fate of and Shishiya, decides to set out on her own to find them. Meanwhile, Arisu and Usagi realize that they need more allies if they want to survive the increasingly difficult challenges ahead. Kuina assures them that they will meet again soon. Several days pass, but Arisu keeps struggling with the grief of losing Tada. His mind often drifts to memories of Kurub and Chota, his closest friends from the past. He remembers how they always motivate him in his darkest moments, pushing him to keep fighting and to stay on the path of survival. One day, Usagi goes out to search for food, but returns empty-handed. She asks Arisu to accompany her on a hunt, suggesting that they catch an animal to eat. Hungry and determined, the two of them go to the nearby park to trap a rabbit. After several failed attempts, Arisu becomes exhausted and gives up. At that moment, they hear heavy, thumping noises from a distance. Curious and cautious, they decide to investigate. Arisu and Usagi follow the mysterious sound to the main street, where they are met with a horrifying sight. Many corpses lie scattered across the road. As Arisu examines the devastation, he sees Kaido lying motionless among the victims. Rushing to him, Arisu hears Kaido, in his final breaths, mention various films he recorded while in this strange world. Hoping to find more clues, Arisu enters Kaido's studio van and finds stacks of videotapes. He and Usagi decide to watch the recordings and realize that Kaido has documented everything with his handheld 8mm camera. As the footage plays, they see and diligently analyze plant growth and measure surrounding water levels. In one of the last clips, it mentions her plan to escape Tokyo to find those responsible for the destruction of their world. In another video, Kaido visits Setagaya after receiving word about someone who supposedly remembers clearly the moment of arriving in this strange world. That person turns out to be a woman who has undergone brain surgery, yet retains sharp memories of the sudden transition into the game world. She explains that the figure she saw during the incident did not resemble humans. But before she can elaborate further, the King of Spades suddenly appears and brutally slaughters her along with others nearby. Back in the present, just as Arisu and Usagi finish watching the recordings, they hear a disturbing sound from outside. When they open the van door, they see the signature card of the King of Spades eerily floating in the air. Realizing the threat is near, they immediately run away, but their escape does not last long. The King of Spades spots them and starts chasing. In the frantic pursuit, Arisu and Usagi become separated. Amid the chaos, Arisu is attacked head-on, and finally he faints. When he finally regains consciousness at night, he finds a woman sitting beside him. Curious and wary, Arisu asks who saves him, and the woman calmly explains that one of her companions ensures his safety. Arisu is shocked when the woman calls his name and demands to know how she learns who he is. In response, the woman introduces him to the person who gives her the information, Aguni. The next scene shows Arisu approaching Aguni with disbelief, astonished to see him still alive. Aguni, who once seemed to sacrifice himself during the incident at the beach, now stands before him. He admits that she has lost all desire to live, but still survives with one mission: to take down the game masters and free the people from their grip. Although Arisu feels overjoyed to meet Aguni again, he also expresses his unease about quickly finding Usagi. Aguni suggests that the reason Arisu keeps playing is only because of Usagi, though Arisu denies it, recalling Kuma's advice that one does not need a reason to live. Life itself is enough of a reason. Aguni then introduces Akane, the woman Arisu previously encountered. She is now Aguni's partner in a plan to lure the King of Spades into the forest and destroy him. Akane, who has lost the lower half of one of her legs, has a dark past. In a flashback, we see her as a beautiful and popular high school student. One day, while walking with her friends, the sky is suddenly filled with fireworks. Moments later, Akane finds herself on a massive soccer field with a game notification on her phone. The game is titled The Boiling Death, and its goal is simple: escape the collapsing arena to survive. Immediately, the ground begins to shake and boiling water erupts from cracks in the earth. Most players die instantly from the scalding liquid, but Akane manages to escape. Sadly, a steel rod pierces her leg during the chaos. Despite the excruciating pain, she crawls to the nearest hospital. There, a doctor tells her that her leg is badly infected and must be amputated to save her life. He cruelly adds that he will only perform the surgery if Akane agrees to sleep with him. Desperate to survive, Akane accepts the disgusting deal and undergoes the amputation. The next morning, Arisa wakes and finds Akane changing clothes. She suddenly approaches and suggests that they face the uncertainty of life with naughty things. Feeling uncomfortable, Arisu pushes her away just as Aguni arrives, making Akane step back. Arisu conveys his wish to keep searching for Usagi, but Aguni advises him not to go alone, reminding him how easily the King of Spades can ambush them. He also reveals that the game masters use tracking devices and other tools to monitor players' movements. Aguni explains his strategy to face the king by luring him into the mountain area and setting an ambush. Together, he, Akane, and Arisu search for the optimal location to set traps. They finally choose a site that offers clear vantage points and natural barriers, then prepare it with sensors and trigger wires to detect the enemy's arrival. That night, Arisa keeps watch but struggles to stay awake. In a cruel twist of irony, the King of Spades appears silently and points his weapon at Arisu. Just as he is about to pull the trigger, Akane throws a smoke bomb, confusing the king. Aguni seizes the chaos and fires several bullets, but the King of Spades is protected by body armor and quickly recovers. Arisa tries to distract him, but is forced to dive into the nearby river when a grenade is thrown his way. With Arisa gone, Aguni moves forward to face the King of Spades alone. However, during the battle, he slips and receives a blow to the head, knocking him unconscious. The King of Spades leaves, unaware that Akane has dragged Aguni into the bushes to hide. The next day, the river current carries Arisu to an entirely new location. In confusion and anxiety, he starts to search for Usagi, but he does not find anything. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, and is seen diligently collecting data and mapping her findings with a compass. Kuina continues to join dangerous games to extend her visa and stay alive. As for Usagi, she meets a little girl and a boy while searching for food in an abandoned house. The boy, whose parents had died, suffers from severe illness. Usagi begs him to join a game because she believes it is the only hope for them to survive. Although hesitant at first, she convinces him to accompany her to the game arena. However, the other participants criticize Usagi for bringing a child into such a dangerous situation. Surprisingly, Arisu, who also arrives at the same arena, sees Usagi and is filled with relief. Happy to reunite, he immediately approaches to support her. Their reunion is very emotional, but they do not have time to linger in the feeling because the next game is about to start. The game is called Checkmate, and it is led directly by the Queen of Spades. The game starts with the announcement that two teams will compete, the Queen's team and the Challengers. The Queen of Spades chooses the boy to represent the Challengers, while she leads her own team. Each player is equipped with a button on their back, blue for the Challengers and red for the Queen's team. The rules are simple but deadly. If someone's button is pressed by a member of the opposing team, then he or she immediately switches to the enemy's team. When the game ends, the team with the most players wins, and all members of the losing team are executed. As the game progresses, the Queen's team attacks aggressively, quickly defeating opponents and converting many challenger players to their side. One by one, the number of challengers shrinks, and by the 6th round, only Arisu, Usagi, and the boy remain. Meanwhile, the Queen of Spades becomes interested in Arisu and is determined to recruit him. Her allies surround and corner him, but just before they can press his button, Usagi comes to the rescue. In the final moments of the game, with only 3 minutes left, a confrontation occurs between Usagi and the Queen on a platform. Usagi falls from the guardrail, but she only suffers minor injuries. However, the Queen is determined to finish her off and forbids anyone from helping her. She declares that the boy's life means nothing and insists that Usagi must die. In a desperate attempt, Usagi tries to awaken the conscience of the converted players, warning them that staying loyal to the Queen may ensure their survival in this world, but it will also destroy every chance to return to their real lives. Her emotional plea resonates in the hearts of the players, and many of them start to return to the challenger's side. Meanwhile, the Queen orders her team to capture Arisu. To create a distraction, Usagi sabotages a gas pipe, allowing Arisu to escape. Even though he is surrounded by the Queen's remaining players, Arisu jumps from the guardrail in the final seconds of the round. In the closing moments, Arisu and Usagi manage to convert enough players to secure victory, leaving the Queen standing alone. Before her execution, Arisu asks the Queen if completing all face card games will send them back to the real world. The Queen does not give a clear answer, instead encouraging him to finish the remaining games to discover the truth for himself. Feeling hopeless, the Queen decides to do the unthinkable, and finally, she dies. Afterward, Arisu and Usagi arrive at the ruins of Grand Building and discover a natural hot spring. Taking a rare moment of peace, they relax in the warm water, and finally they kiss. Their tranquility deepens when elephants appear and wander nearby. Enchanted by the beauty of nature, Arisu comments that he starts to enjoy the world they are trapped in. Meanwhile, and walks through the forest and finds a deer that has died. As a former criminal investigator, she reflects on how the deer struggled to survive until its last breath. Inspired by this, she reaffirms her determination to find a way home. At the same time, Kuina visits the hospital where her mother had once been treated. As she explores the building, she finds a photo of her mother, triggering memories and emotions. Elsewhere, Chishiya prepares for a game led by the King of Diamonds. Set in the Supreme Court's main chamber, the game is called Balance Scale. Each participant is given a tablet and 3 minutes to choose a number between 0 and 100. The average of all chosen numbers is multiplied by 0.8, and whoever selects the number closest to that result wins the round. Players who fail lose 1 point, and anyone whose score drops to -10 is eliminated. As the game continues, players are eliminated one by one, each suffering a gruesome end as sulfuric acid rain pours down on them. And finally, they die. Finally, only Chishiya and the King of Diamonds, Ryu, remain. After some time, Chishiya manages to win the game, and sulfuric acid falls on Ryu, and finally, he dies. Usagi and Arisu look toward the future with hope, while Kuina return to the arena with renewed determination to finish the remaining games and search for a way back to reality. In the post-apocalyptic Tokyo cityscape, Naragi is seen staggering through the ruined city, driven by a twisted desire to cause pain. On his journey, he encounters a man who is severely wounded and begs for a merciful death. Coldly and without feeling, Naragi ignores the plea and leaves the man to suffer. Meanwhile, Kuina reunite while joining a game. Across the city, other face card games are taking place, including those led by the Jack of Clubs, the Jack of Diamonds, and the King of Hearts. These games range from physical challenges like ball throwing and rope climbing to mental ones like mahjong. One particularly dangerous game involves passing through a tunnel while being hunted by deadly creatures. Despite the risks, Kuina manage to win and exit the arena as survivors. At this point, only 2 face cards remain, the Queen of Hearts and the King of Spades, signaling that the games have entered the final stage. While searching for weapons in a barren city, Arisu unexpectedly encounters a familiar face, Chishiya. Happy that both of them are still alive, they reunite. Chishiya reveals that he has something important to tell Arisu, opening a new chapter in their struggle to survive. But just as Chishiya is about to speak, Naragi suddenly appears with a gun and shoots him, leaving Chishiya badly wounded. Arisu tries to calm the situation, but Naragi, who has been consumed by madness, challenges him to a gun duel, suggesting that they end their lives together. As Naragi shoots blindly out of desperation, Arisu and Shishia hide behind a nearby vehicle. At that very critical moment, Usagi appears and pleads with Naragi to stop. He ignores the plea completely and instead points his gun toward Usagi, then fires. In a selfless act, Shishia throws himself in front of Usagi, taking the bullet that should have hit her. Meanwhile, Arisa manages to shoot Naragi, leaving him badly injured. Although struggling to breathe, Shishia smiles, satisfied with his choice to sacrifice himself to protect Arisu and Usagi. Arisu approaches Shishia and asks what he wants to say earlier, but before Shishia can answer, he loses consciousness. Suddenly, a low drone is heard as a plane with the Spade King's emblem appears overhead, and gunfire echoes throughout the city. Panic erupts as the Spade King makes his brutal entrance, shooting indiscriminately. Arisu and Usagi, who take cover, see Kuina and nearby, then reunite with them in the middle of chaos. Kuina asks about Shishiya's condition, but Arisa lies, saying that he is fine. Determined to end the violence, the group decides to face the Spade King together. Dressed in a black cloak, the king soon finds their location and attacks. As he targets, Kuina intervenes, distracting him long enough for and to escape. The king then shifts his focus to Kuina. Eventually, he removes his cloak and mask, revealing his face before continuing the chase after Arisu and Usagi. Just when the situation seems hopeless, Akane appears and fires an arrow at the king, though it fails to pierce his armor. Aguni arrives shortly after and fires shots. The group then regroups and devises a plan. They will lure the king into a nearby pharmacy and blow it up with a massive explosion strong enough to kill him. Knowing that the king relies on weapon supplies dropped from the sky, they lure him into a narrow alley to cut off that access. While and Kuina distract him, Arisa sneaks into the pharmacy and begins preparing it with gas canisters. Although aware of the danger, Arisu continues with the plan, even if it means he must die. However, the king proves to be extremely tough and possesses extraordinary tactical intelligence. As he prepares to shoot Aguni, Akane throws herself in front of him and takes the bullets. Turning toward the king also shoots her. Kuina and Usagi try to intervene, but both are stabbed with a knife by the king. Seeing his friends fall one by one, Aguni becomes filled with rage and points his gun at the king. However, the king shoots first, grazing Aguni's skull, and finally, he falls unconscious. Now, only Arisu still stands, and the king chases him. Arisu runs into the pharmacy, ready to trigger the explosion, but the king is more cunning and chooses a different entrance. Just as Arisu hesitates, unsure whether Aguni is still inside, Aguni suddenly reappears and slams the king through the door. Arisu hesitates, not wanting to endanger Aguni, but Aguni shouts at him to continue. They both escape just in time as the pharmacy explodes violently. Severely injured, the king hands his gun to Aguni, so he pulls the trigger without hesitation, and finally, the king is finished. As Aguni considers doing the unthinkable, he envisions Hatter, who pleads with him not to give in to despair. After the incident, glimpses are shown. Akane is still alive, slowly crawling toward Aguni, and Kuina survive their wounds, vowing to mend their friendship if they succeed in returning to the real world. Kuina mourns and thinking she has died and feeling powerless to stop it. Meanwhile, Arisu and Usagi prepare to face the final game. They arrive at the arena and are shocked to see that the Queen of Hearts is Mira herself. Mira welcomes them and explains the final game, croquet. She tells them that there will be 3 rounds, with no definite winner, and the only goal is simply to complete the game. Using 4 differently colored balls and several hoops scattered across the arena, they begin to play. Mira wins the first round, while Arisu wins the second. With Usagi wounded and bleeding from her leg, Arisu wants to finish the game quickly, but Mira deliberately slows down time. After the second round, Mira invites them for tea, claiming that it is part of the game's progression. As they sit at the table, Arisu presses her for an answer about whether they can return to the real world after completing the game. Instead of answering directly, Mira begins to spin grand narratives. She speaks about the future of humanity, a world shaped by cryogenics, artificial intelligence, and limitless medical breakthroughs. She imagines a future, 50 years from now, where cancer can be cured, wealth inequality has vanished, and even death can be prevented with just a dopamine injection. But just as her story reaches its climax, Mira bursts into laughter and admits that everything she says is merely fiction. Changing direction again, she claims that their minds have been erased and that genetic modifications have been done, so they forget the past and submit to this game. Arisa grows increasingly angry and demands the truth, but Mira only shrugs, pretending not to know. Furious, Arisu points a rifle at her, forcing Usagi to intervene and calm down. After a moment of silence, Arisa begins to realize Myra's manipulation. He realizes that Myra's goal is not to give answers, but to break their psychology and prolong the game. Killing her will only trap them forever in this purgatory, because the game must be completed. Usagi, meanwhile, realizes that Mira is a master manipulator, twisting lies to confuse and unnerve them. Mira insists again that this entire world, its games, and the arena are only Arisu's imagination, a projection of his trauma tied to Karub and Chota's deaths. In a surreal twist, the scene shifts to a psychiatric hospital where Arisu undergoes therapy under the guidance of Dr. Miracano. Usagi is also shown as a patient in the same facility, receiving treatment for her trauma related to her father's death. This setting blurs the line between fiction and reality, making Arisu and Usagi, and also the viewers, question what is real and what may only be the construction of a fractured mind. As shown in the first season, Chota and Karub never manage to reach the public toilet and tragically lose their lives while trying to cross the chaotic intersection. Arisu, who fails to protect them and hides the truth about how they die, is burdened by guilt. Feeling responsible and filled with shame, he begins to believe that his life has no purpose and considers ending it. He nearly gives up by drinking the pills offered by Mira, surrendering himself completely and abandoning the game. However, at that critical moment, Usagi suddenly enters the room and begins speaking to Arisu. She reminds him that once he admits he wants to give up, then the game ends. That is what Mira wants. But something worrying happens. When Usagi admits the reality of the game, the wound in her leg starts bleeding again, proving that the pain and experiences they face cannot possibly be just an illusion. To convince Arisu further, Usagi does the unthinkable to her own wrist, showing that the suffering they endure is truly real. As her condition worsens and she begins to lose consciousness, Arisa holds her hand and finally chooses to live, expressing his desire to continue the journey with Usagi. The moment he makes that decision, the scene returns to the rooftop. Realizing she can no longer manipulate Arisu, Mira agrees to continue the final round. Arisu remains steadfast, determined not to surrender, no matter what. At last, the final phase of the Queen of Hearts game finishes, and Arisa manages to complete all the rounds. After that, he begs Mira to explain the truth behind the world they're trapped in. Mira tells him that he will receive the answer, but only after making one last choice. She offers two options. Whatever he chooses, Mira promises that he will understand everything about the nature of this strange game world. Suddenly, a light descends from the sky, striking Mira, and finally she dies. As she loses her life, fireworks explode in the sky, marking the end of the final game. A voice then echoes across the place, instructing the remaining players to choose whether they want to stay in this world or return to the real one. Arisu and Usagi both choose to return. The others, Chishiya, Naragi, Kona, Aguni, and Akane, also choose to return to their original lives. In an instant, the world resets. Arisu finds himself on familiar streets, once again accompanied by Karub and Chota. The survivors of the game appear in the same area, while those who had died are no longer seen. Suddenly, a giant meteor strikes Earth, causing massive destruction, and finally, people die. In the next moment, Arisu wakes up in a hospital bed, with his older brother watching over him. His brother tells him that his heart had stopped, beating for exactly 1 minute. Arisu, reflecting on his experience, replies that the 1 minute feels like a lifetime. Elsewhere in the hospital, it is revealed that all the surviving players also experience brief cardiac arrest. Akane is seen in a wheelchair in the hallway and stops in front of the operating room, recognizing Aguni inside, although they appear like strangers. Kui now reunites with her parents, who are deeply moved to see her still alive. In the final moment, Arisu and Usagi meet once again, this time as strangers. Even though they do not remember each other, they feel a connection that cannot be explained. After a short conversation, they decide to go outside together, seeking fresh air. Alice in Borderland Season 2 ends with a powerful symbolic image. A table filled with playing cards, all swept away by the wind, except for a single Joker card left behind. And finally, Alice in Borderland will continue in Season 3. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notification so you don't miss the latest recaps.